Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really sophisticated cyber attack that's hiding in plain sight. It's one that can turn a developer's dream job offer into an absolute nightmare. You know, if you're a software developer, getting a technical interview or coding assessment is just part of the game. It's standard. But what if that assessment was actually a Trojan horse? Well, there's a new, highly targeted threat that's turning this totally normal step into a huge security risk, not just for developers, but for their employers too. So, Microsoft has really sounded the alarm on this one. They found a coordinated campaign that's using fake job opportunities to trick developers. And look, this isn't your average phishing email. We are talking about a highly organized, very sophisticated effort to breach developer machines by weaponizing the very tools that they use every single day. Okay, so how does this trap actually work? How do they pull it off? It all starts the second a developer downloads what they think is a totally legit assessment project. From there, an attack unfolds, almost invisibly. So let's really dig into the anatomy of this thing. The real secret sauce to this attack's stealth is something called in-memory malware. Now, instead of writing files to the hard drive where they could be found, this malicious code runs directly in the computer's RAM. It basically acts like a ghost in the machine, which makes it incredibly difficult for most antivirus software to even know it's there. And these attackers are clever, all right? They don't just bank on one method. Microsoft found 3 different ways they can get their code to run. It could happen the moment you open and trust the project in VS Code. It might be hidden inside a common command like npm run dev. Or it could trigger when you start up the application's server. So you've got 3 different doors, but they all lead to the same breach. The attack itself unfolds almost like a 2-act play. In stage 1, it's all about recon. The malware gets its bearings, profiles the machine, and then it phones home to a control server to get an ID. But then comes stage 2. This is where it establishes persistent access. That tiny initial foothold becomes a permanent backdoor, basically a superhighway for the attackers to steal data and send in new commands. So the big question is, who is behind such a sophisticated campaign? Now, while Microsoft didn't officially point fingers in their report, all the evidence and the specific tactics they used point directly toward a well-known and, let's just say, highly skilled group. Yeah, things like using VS Code tasks and using Vercel domains to host malware, these are all signatures, telltale signs of a specific group, hackers linked to North Korea. Security researchers have actually been tracking this activity for years under the name Contagious Interview. And this latest campaign, well, it's a perfect match. And make no mistake, we're not talking about a couple of hackers in a basement here. Research from GitLab paints a really clear picture of a highly professional operation. I mean, this quote says it all. They function like, quote, structured enterprises with defined targets and procedures. This is cybercrime being run like a business. And let me tell you, it's a very profitable business. GitLab actually uncovered financial records for just one of these IT worker cells, and it had raked in over $1.6 million between early 2022 and late 2025. That kind of money, well, it's a huge incentive to keep going. So how do they fly under the radar? They blend right in, using common, everyday tools. For example, an incredible 90% of their malicious accounts were created with Gmail. They're basically hiding in plain sight, using the same platforms we all use and trust every day. They also abuse legitimate developer platforms to host their malware. Vercel, which is a super popular web development service, was their top choice in 2025. As you can see, it was used in almost 50 documented cases. They are literally turning the developer ecosystem against itself. But here's the thing. This threat is not standing still. The actors behind this whole contagious interview campaign are constantly evolving, constantly changing their tactics to stay one step ahead. So let's actually walk through how their methods have been adapting over time. This timeline really shows a fascinating and, frankly, an alarming progression. They started out simple with Vercel URLs. When those started getting flagged, they shifted to using GitHub gists and URL shorteners. After that, they started publishing malicious packages directly to NPM. And today, get this, they're using the blockchain, storing their malware inside of NFT contracts to make it even more resilient and way harder to take down. And the scale of this operation is pretty significant. Just to give you an idea, in 2025 alone, GitLab had to ban over 130 unique accounts that were a part of these fraudulent campaigns. For platforms like GitLab, it is a constant game of cat and mouse. Okay, so knowing all of that, we get to the most important question, right? What can you actually do about it? How can developers and their organizations actually harden their defenses against such a sneaky, insidious threat? Well, Microsoft lays out some really clear guidance for companies, and it's focused on building stronger walls around their development workflows. This includes practical stuff like hardening those trust boundaries, enforcing multi-factor authentication, and maintaining strict credential hygiene, which really just means, don't reuse your passwords. It also emphasizes applying what's called the principle of least privilege, making sure developers only have the absolute minimum access they need to do their job. But look, beyond all the company policies, at the end of the day, individual vigilance is absolutely crucial. The single most important takeaway here is this: every developer has to treat code from any outside source with extreme caution. And yes, that includes a coding test from what looks like a totally legit recruiter. In this environment, trust has to be earned and verified, not just given away. This whole campaign is really more than just a piece of malware. It's a symptom of a much larger challenge. In a world where remote work is now the norm and AI can generate convincing fake personas, the lines are getting really, really blurry. And it forces us to ask a pretty fundamental question. In all of our digital interactions, who are we really trusting?